What up, YouTube? Today we're going to be going over who owns what in the automotive industry. Alright, we're going to start with the American companies. Ford is one of the big ones. Ford owns Lincoln and Mercury. And a long time ago, they used to own another company called Edsel and another company called Mercury. So when you're buying any of those vehicles, just know that you're actually buying a Ford. Next is General Motors, and they have a long list of vehicle companies that they have owned over the years. I actually wrote a list of them down here so I don't forget any of them. And some of them are still in business. Some of them, GM has kind of dropped the brand and they are no longer in existence. So here goes the list. I may be missing a couple, so feel free to leave in the comments below if I missed anything. The General Motors has Cadillac, Buick, Chevrolet, GMC, Hummer, Oldsmobile, Pontiac, Geo, Saturn, and eventually they also bought Saab, a Swedish company. So that is all of the vehicles that are made by General Motors. If you have or consider buying one of those vehicles, just know that you are actually purchasing a General Motors vehicle. Moving on to the final American company, which is going to be Mopar, which is kind of only half American nowadays, and that's going to be Dodge, Chrysler, and Jeep. However, they were a few years back bought out by Fiat, which also owns Alfa Romeo, and I believe they are an Italian company. So that is all the list of the American car companies and what each one of them owns. Now we'll move on to Europe. All right, for the European car companies, we have Mercedes-Benz, which makes all of the Maybachs and all of the smart cars. So that is Mercedes-Benz. Next up is going to be BMW, which also makes many parts. They may not own the full company. I don't know for sure on that, but they do make many parts for Rolls-Royce. So that's going to be BMW. And then Volkswagen has the longest list of the European manufacturers. They also own Audi, Porsche, Bugatti. They make many parts for, but they may not own the entire company. And then they also make many parts for, but may not own the entire company of Bentley. So that's going to be all of the European. Well, I guess technically Sweden is part of Europe. So we're going to include Volvo here, which I believe Volvo is all one big company with Jaguar, Aston Martin, and Land Rover. So all of those vehicles are essentially under one group as well. And that's going to be all of our European vehicles. Next, we're going to move to Japan. And finally, for our Japanese vehicles, we're going to start out with Honda. Honda owns Acura. Then we also have Nissan, which owns Infiniti. And then finally, we have Toyota, which owns Lexus and Scion. Now, there are many car companies that I have not mentioned on this list. You know, I want to mention real quick, that was pretty much the end of the Japanese companies. However, there were many car companies that were not listed here. And the reason they were not listed is likely because they are independently owned. They are a single company. They only make the cars of their own brand. They do not own any other sub-brands or sister companies, if you will. So if you're considering purchasing a vehicle, but you're like, oh, I don't really like those Fords or whatever, but I'm going to go and look at this Mercury. I like these Mercurys a lot, or I like this Lincoln. Well, some people may not be aware that that is actually a Ford car. Same thing with General Motors. You're like, oh, I hate Chevy. I'm only a Cadillac man or whatever. Well, guess what? You're still basically buying a Chevy because they're both made by General Motors. Now, I also want to throw out, many of my viewers already kind of know a lot of this stuff, but I want to throw that out there for those who don't. Maybe you could learn something. If I helped you out today, please like the video. Also, as usual, please go ahead and subscribe to the channel, and I will see you on the next video. This is Andy, signing off.